tens to print for that range, Chupas? That's 2 tens to print for that range. Sorry, I just need to.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for letting me know. All right, just as a reminder, my name is Miss Kelsey. And I would appreciate if we went through and said our names for everybody else so that as we're going through, I know who I'm talking to. So can we start with you?
Olivia.
Olivia.
Caitlin.
Caitlin. Franklin. Okay. I'll do my best to remember that. Okay.
Keanu.
Keanu. Okay.
I've had her say Keanu. I'm like, I've been saying your name wrong the whole time then.
Oh no.
Because I always said it's Keanu.
That's funny. All right. So in front of you, you should have the National Geographic magazine, and on the board, you'll notice we're reading about Mount Everest today, and especially we're going to be talking about climate change with that. Okay. What is so significant about Mount Everest? What does anybody know?
It's
It's
one
cold.
It's also one of the tallest mountains in the world.
It is. Do you know exactly how tall it is? I'm putting you on the spot. Take a guess.
That I do not know.
That you do not know. Does anybody know how tall it is? Ballpark?
Any idea where it is?
Himalayas.
The Himalayas, yes, precisely. Well, it is 29,029 feet, if I'm correct. And for comparison, if you guys know Harney Peak or Black Belt Peak, that is about 8,000 feet tall. So Mount Everest is about 4 times bigger than Harney Peak, which is like huge. Okay. Miss Chupless, do you mind turning that bad boy on? And then can you turn it to the magazine?
Oh, you got the magazine right now?
Yeah, there's a map on the magazine, on the online one, that actually gives somewhere in here, right there, I think. I don't know how to use this. So Keanu, I'm sorry, thank you for correcting me. You're right, it is the Himalayas, in the Himalayas. Yep, go up a little bit. And it is in, looks like Nepal-ish area. There's Mount Everest. So like I said, we're going to be talking a little bit about climate change. I just wanted to start with a video about how climate change is affecting Mount Everest.
New research shows the glaciers of Mount Everest have shrunk by approximately 13% over the last 50 years, and global warming may be to blame. A study by researchers from the University of Milan shows that the small glaciers in the Sagarmatha National Park surrounding Mount Everest have been decreasing by 43%. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change claims that the glaciers in the Himalayan area will be depleted by 2035. Another group, the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, analyzed the glacial activity around Everest with satellite technology. Their data shows the melting glaciers have only receded by 1/10 of the numbers claimed in the IPCC report, and that some of the glaciers are growing. Glaciers in the Karakoram Mountains are reportedly growing larger. Study researcher Julia Gardell said the rest of the glaciers in the Himalayas are mostly melting and that they have negative mass balance. Here, we found the glaciers aren't. This is an anomalous behavior. The Himalayan glaciers are the water source for around 1.5 billion people.
Alright, so that was just a little introduction to what we're going to be doing. Oh, that's probably going to start the next one, isn't it? Cancel. Thank you. Somebody explain to me, what is climate change? I know we have a small group, but I would appreciate hear from some different voices.
Changing temperature.
Changing temperature, like colder or warmer? Warmer, yes. Why would we be reading about Mount Everest and climate change? What do you think that? What do you think we're gonna learn about? Weather? Yeah.
If like it got warmer there.
How it might affect Mount Everest? Yeah. We are going to be going into some of that. So if you open up your book, National Geographic, we're starting on page 2. And I think it would be awesome if we each read some sections. I'll start with this first one, a little introduction that says Expedition Everest. And then from there, we'll be reading through the sections. If we take turns, that'll be awesome. And in between those, I'll have a couple questions that we'll answer on our whiteboards, okay? So we're starting on page 2, where it says Expedition Everest. Down on the bottom left, it says, in 2019, a National Geographic and Rolex Perpetual Planet Extreme Expedition Team journeyed to Mount Everest. And then up in the right-hand corner, it says, Life at the Extremes, Earth Science. As you read, think about how scientists use technology and data to better understand Earth's processes. All right, so if you turn to page number 4, can I have a volunteer to read Getting Started?
Okay.
Thank you.
I stepped off the plane and saw the high snow crested mountains of the Himalaya.
Mm-hmm.
We had flowed into the valley of
Lukla,
Lukla in
Khumbu,
Khumbu region of Nepal.
yep, Nepal.
I wouldn't see Mount Everest until the following day, and when I did, I had to
Crane.
crane my neck to the sky to see the summit. It was so much taller than everything else.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to read?
You might be wondering what I was doing here. I was part of an expedition to Mount Everest. I came because our planet is changing. Right now, we're seeing dramatic climate change that what has huge implications for people around the world. This is especially true in extreme environments like high mountains where we don't have a lot of data.
Thank you. Does one of our boys want to read?
Here we know the glaciers of the Himalayas around Mount Everest provide water sources to millions of people who live in these mountains. The glaciers also feed the rivers that flow to areas of Asia that are home to more than 1 billion people. Rising global temperatures are causing the glaciers and snowy areas to shrink and are threatening this vital resource. We wanted to know more about this, so my job was to help collect data about the environment so we can begin to better understand how the high mountains are changing.
Awesome, thank you. So from that section and on your whiteboards, I want you guys to answer, what is threatening glacier and snowy regions?
What was it?
Yeah, what is threatening glacier and snowy regions?
I'll give you about 15 seconds to finish.
All right, so what was the question?
What is the threat of the glacier and snowy areas?
Perfect, and what was your answer?
Rising global temperatures.
Excellent. Is that what everybody else got too? Rising global temperatures? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Thumbs up. Excellent. All right, we're going to keep reading under collecting samples, and I'll start with that one. Over the course of our months-long expedition, we collected samples of ice, snow, rocks, water, and lake sediments. We also observed and recorded the plant and animal species that can survive at these very high elevations. We mapped the area and set up weather stations along the route up to the summit. Alright, on your whiteboards now, I want you to write what samples were being collected. Do you mind sharing what you wrote down? So the question was, what samples were collected? And you had,
Ice, snow, rock, water, lakes,
sediments, yep. So like all the stuff that's at the bottom of the lake, like dirt, rocks, native plants, stuff like that. Alright, do I have any volunteers to start reading from expedition work?
Before
Thank you.
anyone collected any data, though, we needed to prepare. This place is unlike any other place. We needed to learn and practice mountaineering
Mountaineering skills.
mountaineering skills. Thank you.
Yep.
To go high on the mountain.
I'm gonna stop you. What is mountaineering skills? Does anybody know?
Isn't it like learning how to survive while hiking on a mountain?
Kind of. What was the word you said? Did you say hiking?
Yeah.
Yeah, hiking. So like climbing, I think part of it, maybe she's scrolling down a little bit. We'll get to it, is using like picks you can see on page 5. They're actually like roped in and they have to climb those glaciers, which is super, super crazy. I don't think I would have the guts to do that. But yeah, mountaineering skills, like hiking and climbing. Alright, you can continue.
We needed to test our equipment in the extreme weather, and we needed to work with our shepherd
Sherpa, yep.
climbing team. That would be one of the keys to our success. Sherpas are Tibetan people living on the high southern slopes of the Himalaya. They are known for providing support for climbers.
Has anybody heard of the Sherpas before? What do you know about the Sherpas, if you don't mind me asking?
I know, I think they're these traditional people that live on the mountains that have lived there their whole lives, and they've been trained professionally to help people for job money. And so when people come to hike the mountain, they help them out to reach the top.
Perfect, yeah, and my question was for this section, why are the Sherpas key to the researcher's success? And you practically explained it there. So if you guys wanna write on your whiteboard why you think that the Sherpas are useful to anybody who's hiking Mount Everest, I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Wait, what was the question again?
It won't specifically be in the section, but the question was, why are the Sherpas key to the researcher's success? So why would they need the Sherpas to be climbing on Mount Everest? Why are they useful?
Thank you.
You're welcome. we had a really, really good explanation earlier. Does anybody else want to chip in on why they think the Sherpas are super, super useful to the researchers?
I'll wait till they answer before I talk.
Okay, that's totally fine. Thank you.
I said they know the way up the mountain and how to survive.
Perfect, yeah. Alright, go for it. What else do you have?
Technically, like she said, they're the key to survival because technically, if I remember correctly, it's that most people can't really live that long on the mountains because of such high altitude
Mhm.
levels, and so without like the proper instructions, they could actually suffocate basically and die.
So you used past knowledge that you had of Mount Everest and the Sherpas, and you kind of drew some conclusions from that. I like that, yeah. The Sherpas are very useful because they know the mountain and they know the way up the mountain. Let's continue on, where are we at? Ice training. I can read the first part. There are steep slopes of ice and snow on the route to the summit. We needed ice climbing equipment to scale them. Crampons attached to our stiff boots. So this is like when I was talking about mountaineering skills. These are metal spikes that stick out the bottom and the front of our boots. They help your footing on slippery ice slopes. Ice axes helped too. You can swing an axe into the ice and pull yourself up. So actually, there's a little visual of somebody climbing up there. Personally, I'm afraid of heights, and that would be terrifying. I don't know about anybody else.
I'm more concerned of the ice because technically, when you slip,
Possibly, but with those picks, they should be able to, like jab it right in there, and it should be able to hold them for the most part. And then you can't really tell on his shoes, but he should have.
sharpness.
Yeah, watch his foot. Let's see this again.
If I'm guessing that that they have those shoes that have just little spikes in them that connect to the ice.
Oh, for sure. And then I think I can't tell with this in a way. He has a rope as well right there. And
So does the rope go all the way up the mountain?
I'm sure somebody has to be the person that goes without the rope and take the rope up, and start it so that somebody else from the bottom can use it to get up, if that makes sense.
The best way to probably do that is with a Sherpa.
With a Sherpa, there you go. Perfect. Alright. I'm continuing on the second paragraph of ice training. It was hard and dangerous work. The Sherpa team fixed ropes on icy slopes so that if you slipped and fell, the rope would catch you. Our route up Everest had to go through the Khumbu Icefall, which put our skills to the test.
What is an ice ball?
Did everybody hear that? What is an icefall?
What is an ice ball?
What's a waterfall?
Rain coming down.
So what's an icefall?
Ice ball.
Ice coming down.
Yeah, there you go. Kind of like what that guy's climbing.
Right, he's climbing an ice ball.
That's scary.
I know, I was just in Spearfish Canyon and there are so many of these. But I would not be willing to climb it. No, thank you.
It'd be so cold.
It'd be really, really cold. On page 5,
If I remember correctly, there were more deaths back then than nowadays from climbing Everest. Like, if I remember correctly, 3 out of 5 people died climbing Everest if they ever could have the chance.
why do you suppose that is?
Because all of the altitude, but also the dangerous situations you have to go through, such as climbing the ice.
So
cracking
why
it.
did it change in more recent times that fewer people are dying?
Probably by the new technology and advancements and
Training and-
training.
Very good. So at the top of page 5 it says, each member of the team must become proficient with the tools and techniques of ice climbing. And then it says, crampons on boots and ice axes help with the climbing. So you can see in that picture the little spikes on the guy's shoes. Alright.
I'm surprised they even got a drone up there because of how cold it is up there.
Yeah, and they, when we get into this next page, they start talking about how they're collecting data, and they do use drones, and they also use helicopters, I believe, which is pretty cool. And like you mentioned with the altitude, I don't know how that works up there. So, does anybody want to read Bird's Eye View? Start from there, the first paragraph. Go for it.
Okay.
I feel maybe a little confidence back there.
To be standing in the shadow of Mount Everest is thrilling. As the geographer of the National Geographic Society, I normally work in an office at headquarters in Washington, D.C. I work with all the teams and make maps and process geographic data at the society. Some days I design maps, other times I work with the team to collect map data in one of our research programs. And that means that I get to do field research, like traveling to Everest.
Thank you very much. All right, who would like to continue?
For the Everest expedition, my role on the science team was to map the area around Everest Base Camp and all the
Yep, Kungu.
glacier, the highest glacier on the earth. To do this, work with collecting map data using tools on the ground and drones and on helicopters. We photograph all the areas we want to map and use the telegraph called LiDAR.
Yeah, LiDAR.
It uses a beam of light to measure the shape of the land. Then we'll bring the data home to create a map.
Perfect. Using drones at high altitude is hard work for the drone and for us. The air is thinner here, and the blades of the propellers on the drones need to be steeper to have more bite as they spin. The camera on the drone points down at Earth and takes detailed pictures. We can stitch all the pictures together into a big mosaic. This is called a photo map, and we use it to see what the environment looks like today. We can then compare it to past maps. So there's that drone that they were talking about here. And it almost looks like they might be using some kind of like iPad to see and map Mount Everest, which is really, really cool. Alright, under ice cores. Let's hear from somebody. Anybody? Franklin, you feel like reading?
Sure.
Alright, thank you.
Each year, the glacier has new snowfall that turns into ice. Over time, the layers build up into thick, massive ice. Our team took ice cores at several locations along the road to the summit. What's an ice core, and why do we need them? We use a big drill with a hollow center and it drives down into the snow and ice. When we pull it out, we have a long piece of ice that is a cross section of the glacier.
Once we have the ice cores, we can study the layers and find out what the climate was like in the past. Our glacier scientists also collected snow samples to see how much pollution is in the snow. So on your whiteboard, write, why do the researchers collect ice cores and snow samples? Has anybody ever been ice fishing? Show of hands.
My brother.
Your brother has? I'm just looking at this, and this kind of reminds me, have you ever used a drill when you were ice fishing?
Yeah.
Go down, down, down. That's pretty cool. So it says our team practiced taking an ice core. I know you just got here, but how did you answer the question? Come over here.
I said that to find out what the climate was like in the past.
Perfect.
And then I said how much pollution is in the snow.
Exactly. Did everybody else get that? That was in the last paragraph of ice cores. They were looking for how much pollution there was and what the climate was like in the past. Alright, weather stations. One way to measure the changing climate is to set up automatic weather stations, or AWS. Our expedition put up the highest AWS in the world. We set up 5 of these stations. Each will measure temperature, precipitation, air pressure, and the amount of solar radiation. Each will send data via satellites to a computer, so we can monitor the weather. That's the automatic part. As we collect data over months and years, we can see how the weather compares to other places in Nepal and around the world. The longer the record you have, the better you can assess how the climate is changing. One benefit of AWS data is that meteorologists can make better forecasts for those who are climbing Everest, which will make climbing safer. Science and exploration. The weeks passed. It wasn't easy. We had to wait out snowstorms and endure getting sick. We had to watch for avalanches and understand how high altitude would affect our bodies. Yet we all returned home safely. With the data we collected and will continue to collect, we can now spread the word about what is happening to our mountains. Beautiful. Alright, so I just wanted to make sure we had time to play Kahoot because I love Kahoot and I really want to play. So if you don't have a computer that's up and running, make sure you do that, but you can also use your cell phone if you have that too.
I forget which two lists is Kahoot in Teams or is it
We can do
individual?
team or individual.
I would say individual.
So once you get on the site and get your stuff up there, you'll want to punch in that code.
7. Is your name gonna be on the video?
Make sure it's an appropriate name, please. I don't care if it's your real name or I think it's I love it, King of Everest.
This class is really interesting name when they do.
That's great.
A lot of times like
Frank.
the story. Yeah, Galapagos and so they were choosing Galapagos names and stuff the last time. we did.
Tank 56.
56 for the tank boy.
You have everybody in, right?
Nope, we're just waiting on. We just gotta warm up our computer.
You must be on one?
I am on one.
Okay. I was like,
I wanna play.
5 kids? Okay. Hey, you guys are gonna have to race. Wait, is Miss K Caitlin or?
That's her. That's me. Oh no, is it
Loading
updating
or-
on you?
Yeah.
Do you have a phone at all? You can use your phone.
Look for that one.
Do you want to do it with me
Here.
Oh, she can use her phone.
5 questions. The National Geographic Society mounted an expedition to Mount Everest in 2019 to study the effects of avalanches, climate change. It looks like everybody got it. Didn't even have to say it. Nice. Expedition team members were equipped ice climbing equipment, which did not include crampons, ice axes, ice picks, warm clothing. Interesting. Ice picks? Which technology did the expedition team members not use? LiDAR, drones, GPS, or we? Are we still around?
Yeah, I have one.
That's funny. Those are old. I had one in high school. Oh, mountain is in first. Which type of sample did the expedition team members not collect? Soil samples, ice cores, snow samples, or water samples? Soil sample. What? Wait, what? There's 2 checks. Question mark is in the lead. Alright, this is the last one. What is function the automatic weather service will not be able to do? Help scientists make better weather forecasts, make climbing safer, help record long-term climate change, water samples. What? Nice. Alright, who's our big winner? Question mark. Does anybody want to?
No.
Your question mark? Nice work. Alright, guys. That's all I got for you. You want to shut down your computers? Put away your whiteboards? I think the bell's going to ring about a minute.
Is this your
Yes. And then you can bring your magazines over here.
Caitlin, would you turn on the lights?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
My best
What
guess
are you
is
doing
the
on the
lounge or whatever, the outdoor area is gonna be closed today, so I think
It's the same